Hey, this is Gunny. Welcome to Gunny Sharp Talk. We're going to talk about some different abrasives today. Originally, I started doing a series of videos using different abrasives and doing edge retention videos on these steels. I have Maximet, K390, Rex 45, S110V, and 20CV, all in PM2s. I wanted to do some edge retention just because of the similar geometry or the same geometry of the blades. But there's plenty of edge retention videos out there. And once I got pretty deep into the testing, I started realizing I didn't care that Maximet would take a polished toothy edge. We can get into that in a different video, but that it would take that edge and cut this particular row 1280 cuts before it stopped cutting paper. Because honestly, I like a really sharp knife, and I wouldn't have let it get that dull. I wouldn't have got to the point where it wouldn't cut paper. I would have touched it up long before then. And after I touch it up a few times and it's still not getting back to where I want it, then I would have sharpened it. And part of the reason is, well, like I said, I like a really sharp knife. Generally prefer them to at least shave. They don't necessarily have to whittle hair. Yes, when I do a full sharpening, I may get it to that point, but I needed to cut things. I cut, plugs off of cords that basically would be an extension cord. I cut tubing like this that is nylon reinforced, and the nylon in it is more like bristles from a cleaning brush. So they're kind of hard, not really like fishing line, and they get pokey. So I need clean cuts on these. Part of it's just personal preference. But once my knives stop doing things like that, or stop giving me the quality of cuts I'm looking for, or cutting is easy, then I'll touch them up. And once that edge won't stay healthy anymore, then I will either touch it up on a stone or do a full sharpening. Now, I like knives that hold their edge really well, because I do like a really sharp knife, and I'm not wanting to have to touch it up all the time. I don't want to get in the middle of my day and have to touch it up. As much as I love sharpening, when I'm working, I don't want to have to stop and sharpen. When I'm sharpening, I want to sharpen. When I'm working, I want to work. So I started cutting different things, things like this, rope, some refrigeration, pipe insulation, plastic, a little bit of wire, things like that, things that I would cut throughout the week. I wasn't trying to get super scientific with the tests. I started out that way with the edge retention and thought, since I'm not interested in how many cuts I can get, I'm more interested in, doing all the same cuts on things with all these knives and all these different abrasives. And at what point is it at a point that I don't like the way it feels? I don't like the way the cut feels. So there wasn't any real way to measure that. So this is just a personal preference. And so my statements on these abrasives, though based in fact, will be opinions. It will be what I like. And I'll give my reasons why and explain some differences in the abrasives and how that possibly contributes to how I feel about them. What we have here is we have some resin bonded diamond stones. These are from Practical Sharpening. I have some resin bonded CBN stones, which are all from Practical Sharpening. They're out of Norway. I appreciate Practical sending out a lot of different stones for me to test over the past year or two. And incidentally, not because they sent me the stones, but because of using them, these have become some of my favorite stones. The top two in the CBN resin bonded stones are a 1.5 micron or 15 and 30,000 grit. These came from Grit-O-Matic. The metallic bonded stones, I have up to a 5,000 grit or 3.2 micron, came from Practical Sharpening. I don't have all of my diamond matrix stones. A couple of them are out on loan. Those I purchased at Omaha Knife. And then I have a couple OCB stones, Vitrified OCB stones. And I do have a whole set of Vitrified stones. All of them are in OCB. I have some of the old legacy stones. And I didn't use those in this testing. So I didn't really bring them up to talk about. I have a 2,000 grit that recently come out, and I have 1,200 grit. These are came from Grit-O-Matic, partially purchased and partially test stones. This came from Practical Sharpening, and I have a set. I have a 400, 1,000, and then this 2,000 grit. This is a vitrified diamond stone, which I really like. Love these for kitchen knives, and actually favorite bench stone I have. This bigger stone is a CBN metallic bonded stone. I think I have one more, but right now this is the only one I can find. I don't have enough of these to make sweeping statements about them. I can make generalizations based on the diamond metallic bonded and the way the CBN resin bonded and diamond resin bonded, how they react. But without having a full set, it's really speculation. And then I have shaped and glass stones that are ceramic stones, and out of ceramics or out of these synthetics, these are my favorite stones. So let's get into some of my thoughts on these. And again, these are my opinions. I will give you some reasoning behind some of it and some information about the stones. So the CBN resin bonded stones versus the diamond resin bonded stones. The CBN technically cut or should cut faster than the diamond. You don't notice that they cut faster, but they do cut cleaner, or it seems like they cut cleaner is how I would describe it. And the reason for that is these are octahedron in shape. These are tetrahedron in shape. All that means is throwing the science out the window and just saying these have more cutting facets. So these have more cutting edges than the diamonds. The diamonds cut deeper, so they technically, I think, remove just as much metal without getting a microscope and looking. But then these cut shallower, but they can remove more in one sweep, if that makes sense, where these are making deeper teeth, deeper ridges, deeper scratch patterns than these at the same grit. The CBN, really easy to remove the previous scratches from the previous stone. That being said, as fast as they cut, I don't know about a full set of metallic bonded, but out of all of these, the metallic bonded diamond stones are my favorite. They cut, when they first come out with diamonds, I've been sharpening for a long time. I didn't like them. I didn't like the diamond plates. I'm not a big plated diamond guy. But these, they cut fast like plates. But plates are just too rough and rugged on the edges for me, on the apex, on the bevel. They cut too deeply. These don't cut as deeply. And one of the nice things about these is, for me anyway, some people don't like that you can, or at some point will need to etch them. I etch them in ferric chloride. You can use an acid peroxide combination too that's supposed to be faster, but I kind of like the speed of the ferric chloride. It allows me to time it a little better and really kind of personalize my stones. One of the things I was worried about with these, that was a concern, is how would I flatten them? How would they stay flat? And I guess you can sand them down and then do a light etch to flatten them. I haven't had to do that. And you know, some of you guys out there are going to be some of the people I've passed these to. I've passed these around. They've went through quite a few hands. I've etched them 3 times, I think. Light etches. They've done hundreds of knives. I couldn't even tell you how many. And they're getting close to needing an etch again, but I love these. If I had to pick one set and take a full set, I would take the metallic bonded. These CBN resin bonded are right behind it. I really love the edge these leave. Now these, in the 1 micron and half micron, they leave scratches behind. So scratches that you previously got out, they will create new scratches. So if you're looking for a polish, don't go up that high. I wouldn't go above about 3,000 grit, because the rest of them seem to create scratches. But that being said, I really like the bite these leave. They leave at that high of a grit, they still leave a nice aggressive biting edge, a good crisp feeling edge. The diamond, I don't have past the 1500, but I tell you what, going to 1500, it's starting to polish at that point. I like the way it looks. You get a really nice edge. For some of you that don't want to go real high, those would be a nice set of stones. Get to 1500, it shines a little bit, but you still have good aggression. The diamond matrix, they cut really well, and they leave a really super even scratch pattern. The 4K really shines and polishes well. Well, I'm not going to say polish it. It removes the scratches really well. It leaves kind of a cloudy polish because it's something like a 5 micron. But it removes scratches really well. The downside is when you do all diamond matrix, once you get to the 4K, it seems to take the bite out of your edge, that crispness, that nice slicing edge. It will push cut really well and gets refined, and you can whittle hair and all that. But when you go to cut plastic or you go to cut something like this, it doesn't want to bite into it. Where with the metallic bonded, it does. With the CBN resin bonded, it does. It does with these diamonds. And it does with these diamonds if I do a mixture, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. Now the vitrified diamond stones, what these are a ceramic diamond stone. So you soak these like you do traditional water stones. You let them bubble till they stop bubbling, and then keep them wet. You can make a slurry on it. You can use a Nagura to dress them a little bit and get a slurry. These cut really fast. They cut like diamonds. They leave that nice finish like a ceramic and give you that feedback similar to a traditional water stone. I wish these went in higher grit. If they did, I would love higher grit stones with this. If you sharpen a lot of kitchen knives, personally, that's the way I would go. They're really amazing at doing that. Kitchen knives, speaking of, I love the shafting glass. Shafting glass, they leave a beautiful edge. The scratch pattern, even at the lower grit, is really nice, smooth, even. I like the feedback on them. They don't have quite the feedback Chaucer do, but I like the finish better off these a little bit. I don't know why. They're really hard. They don't dish too bad at all. Takes a while. I've got them all the way up to 16,000 grit. They're, for ceramics, this is my favorite ceramic stone. This is my favorite, would be my favorite for sharpening kitchen knives or, you know, high carbon steels. Now let's get into these beneath a little bit. Honestly, what I like the best is a combination. These 1200 OCB, I have one in 25% concentration and one in 100% concentration. These are my finishing stones. I almost always, if I'm doing a mirror polish, I'll finish with these. Even if I'm not, I'm just shining the edge up a little bit, I finish with these a lot. They keep that crispness on the edge. They don't take it away while polishing. They do pretty well at removing scratches. They rival maybe the Diamond Matrix at removing scratches, and that's saying a lot because the Diamond Matrix are pretty amazing at removing scratches. But they polish better. What I mean by that is they give a better shine. These are 3.2 micron, and I really had a lot of hope for these 2000 grit OCB stones that are 1 micron, 10 micron. I have one in 25%, one in 100%. And the resin, it feels the same, but you're getting agglomeration of the diamonds in the resin, meaning that the diamonds are clumping together. So you're having a 1 or a 0 micron diamond, and they're attracting to each other in the bonding process. My guess is, I don't know how Vitrified mixes it, but I imagine it's some kind of centrifugal mixture, which is creating a charge in the ions within the diamonds, and they're attracting to each other. If they could go through a deionization process, then I imagine these would be great. Like I said, I was really hoping these were going to be a step up from the 1200 OCB, because the 1200 are amazing. And I know some of you are thinking 1200 grit, but these are in a different grit rating. So the 1200 OCB is more like an 8000 grit that you're used to. So these would be more like a 16,000 grit that you're used to. So the OCB being more, like I said, more like an 8000 grit, you're getting that 8000 grit polish. And I actually like the polish better off of this than I do my 8K shafting glass, and that's saying a lot for any of you that use the shafting glass. So my overall thoughts, now that I've given you a little rundown on these, my conclusion was I like them all, and I like them for different reasons, and I kind of like to use a mixture sometimes. So what I'll do with the metallic bonded, I'll go all the way up in those and finish with 1200 OCB. I may go straight from here, even though it's technically backing up to the 4K Diamond Matrix, because it's so good at removing scratches. And then I can turn around and get the rest of the scratches out with this, and I've got a mirror polish. I know a lot of people are real pro stropping, and don't get me wrong, I strop, but I probably do fewer passes than most people because I'm done sharpening once I'm off the stones. I'm done polishing once I'm off the stones. Not that the strops don't polish, but that's kind of a side effect. All I'm doing is trying to bring my edge up and finish it off. I know some people like to do a lot of passes on the strop, and that's fine. That's just not the way I do it. I'm good with the resin bonded up to 1500. I know you guys were wanting something more definitive. I would not be unhappy with any of these sets. I'd be a little disappointed at 2000 OCB, but the rest of them, I wouldn't be unhappy with any of the sets. And the way the CBN resin bonded are, the way the metallic bonded diamond are, I'm gonna probably at some point have to get a set of the CBN, I might have said OCB, but CBN metallic bonded stones just to compare them. Because if I like the metallic bonded as well as I like the resin bonded, or resin bonded versus resin bonded diamonds, those will probably be my go-to stones. If I'm wanting to do a job quick, it's metallic bonded. I generally do throw a mixture in, and I have even, when I'm doing a polish, I'll even tighten up the progression. I can do bigger jumps in progression and still get a mirror polish. A lot of that has to do with technique. Some of you may be there, some of you may not. Some of you may be a much better sharpener than I am. But for those of you that are really wanting the mirror polish, whatever you use, tighten your progression. Spend the most time on your first two stones. Make sure that you remove all the scratches from the previous stone. So you're going to want to go from heel to tip. You're going to want to go back and forth in a scrubbing motion from tip to heel, and then finish off in whatever direction you want your scratch pattern. But you'll want to make sure that you remove all the previous scratches. And by getting a full even scratch pattern on your bevel, that helps you understand if you removed them all before you get to the higher grits and have to back up. But the tighter your progression, the less likely you are to have to back up, and you can move from one stone to the next. You can actually be faster by tightening up your progression because you only have to stay on each stone for a couple minutes, only so many passes. But anyways, we'll get into that in another video. I may do one here in the next couple weeks to show you how to polish a bevel. It may wait till my OCB stones come back. It's because I'm loaning those to Mike for being gracious enough to send me these PM2s, and I've had them for way too long. But I'm going to send those back to him, and along with some of these stones for him to test out. Anyways, I really appreciate you watching. I know this was kind of a long video, and I was going to break it up into several videos, but then it just got to be too much of a series. I will, in future videos, do some other more in-depth, possibly demonstrations of these stones, if you guys would like. If you have any questions, please comment down below, like and subscribe. And if you have anything that you would like to see or like me to do, just let me know. I know these videos are kind of raw in the beginning. I'm just starting them, and I'm not a big video guy. I'm more of a blog guy. So anyways, I appreciate your time.